Today we're going to speak to Mohammed Ali, an artist, illustrator, a wise person, to find out the personality behind the art. We hope to discover what inspires him, what motivates him, and how he is planning to conquer the world. Welcome, Mohammed Ali. Thank you for taking your time out of your busy schedule. I've got a few questions to ask you. Apart from being a painter, what other mediums drives you?
Primarily, really, it started off as a visual artist, painting, but really the broader sense of the arts, i.e., exploring right now. I'm exploring with theatre, I'm playing with sound, even sound design and film and video, actually exploring that as an artist. I enjoy kind of, dabbling in all forms and creating. In particular, I'd probably say right now I'm doing a lot of theatre work, which involves live painting, in fact, on stage, where I'm able to paint live in front of huge audiences and bring sounds and performance and poetry and all these things into one space.
Why do we need arts within our society?
Well, I'm a big advocate that in our communities, especially when we're talking about minority communities, talking about immigrant communities, that perhaps aren't engaging enough in wider society, in the mainstream. Why aren't we? Right? It's something I've really always pondered and thought about a lot, about how we can encourage our children, new generations, to aspire to make a difference and actually be kind of in all sectors. And yes, we have this problem, of course, of the careers that our children will go into, and I suffer the same situation, with a problem where we become doctors and accountants and lawyers. But what about the creative sector? We can't belittle this as just this is something that isn't beneficial for society, because, to be honest with you, and I know I'm going to be biased here as a creative myself, but creativity has the power to change the world more than any other form of expression out there. Why? Because it's something that is so a necessary part of our human development, for us to respond to problems differently and uniquely. This is something we as a community often we lack. Otherwise we wouldn't have the problems we have right now, which is underperforming in terms of education, in terms of being accused of not integrating and engaging in society, all of these social issues that come about, right? Really, if we were to think creatively, so this is where I always say to people, don't think of being creative as just doing nice fluffy paintings of flowers and landscapes. Creativity, all of that stuff, when we're painting and drawing and creating poetry and we're creating films and photography and doing a painting on a wall somewhere, all of that creative development, if you like, or that creative conditioning of the mind, is something that we will apply in our daily lives in terms of responding to a problem, responding to something that might have happened in whether we're talking about a situation in society where we want to respond in a different way. So yes, we have problems. Let's not skirt around the issues and pretend that everything's hunky-dory, because it isn't. We have major problems in our communities, right? I don't think I need to go into what the problems are when we're talking about disengaged young people, and all levels of kind of issues. We have problems, and creativity, I say we need to put that at the forefront of dealing with the problems. I've been saying this for decades. And perhaps more and more people are realizing now, right? Realizing the tangible benefits. When I mean by tangible, what benefits? I'm talking about when we often, as I said, people don't see the arts as something they can see the fruits of immediately. You kind of think, I can't see the benefit of it. A teacher, as someone who becomes a teacher, you can see the benefit of the student that has succeeded and actually learned something, and you can track that. With the arts, you can't. It has a broader, almost a hidden, intangible benefit on society. Like I said, we can't track that. The colouring of that picture would lead years later to someone dealing with a problem when, for example, they're trying to deal with the issue of racism or segregated communities, and have come up with a solution which is completely out of the box thinking.
Talking about earlier, you were talking about the community as a whole, British Bangladeshi community. You're a British-born Bangladeshi, am I right?
Yeah, I was born and raised here.
Born and raised here. So you've had the influence of your parents and your great grandparents, how much they struggled to live in this country. Tell us a bit more about what you found out, because I'm sure you've done a bit of exploring yourself. Does it relate to our modern times?
I mean, the struggle of any people, really, it's something that it informs the present. You know, there's no doubt that understanding where the origins and the struggle to achieve something, it's a necessary lesson for any society to learn from. You know, history, often we perhaps might see it as, in school days, see history as something that is not really engaging or even relevant or beneficial for us today. But it absolutely is, of course. And I think only through a bit of time and age you realize and recognize the importance of understanding where we came from. And those struggles, often we see the struggles we talk about, or historical, the relevance of something historically. We often see things as, something from 100 years ago or 500 years ago or whatever is, that's history. Whereas sometimes we can be quite oblivious to the recent history, the living history, almost like history of like, a few decades only, 20, 30 years, 40 years of, say, our communities and how they struggled in terms of immigrants that settled here, first generation immigrants. And that's something I'm drawn to, because it's part of who I am today. The reason why I do what I do is part of my narrative, if you like, my story as a son of an immigrant, someone who's born in this society. And, forever it's that circle of that struggle that we are endlessly engaged with, in recent times when we're trying to deal with kind of Islamophobia and negativity and perceptions of communities, and even as recent as Britain leaving the EU, and the kind of all of the ugliness that's coming out now, the racism that's kind of been reignited, if you like. It's always been there, but now we see it come to the surface. This is all part of the same story. This is, our parents' story is almost, we're kind of going full circle of how they were trying to establish themselves, any progress they made. Actually, you know what, we're in this circle and we'll forever kind of need to almost revert back and go, okay, look at how it was, look at where we're going. So a lot of this informs my art, because my art's about telling stories. I'm a storyteller. I'm someone who's trying to bring things that are relevant to people, right? Some artists might paint something which is quite abstract and just general eye candy, or something that just is just a little bit of a bit of decoration, if you like. And I think there's a need for that, for some people to express themselves just for the sake of creating beautiful things. What I like to do is create art that speaks to people, resonates with people, that is relevant to them in a very real sense. Making the art relevant to people is one of the things that is a primary drive to what I do, because, as I said, my aim and my mission, if you like, is how do we make art a part of everybody's life? And I emphasize the word everybody. Every art should be for everybody, right? Art isn't just for a select few, the elite, a certain class of people. Art should be in our daily lives. Why should only certain people benefit from art? Why is it restricted to certain communities only? Why should, you know what I'm saying? And this is why I quite like to explore taking art onto the streets around us, even bringing color into everybody's life, and not just something of color, but, as I said, something that will speak to them here, not just here on their eye or what they hear, whether we're talking about music or what they might see, but actually how can it penetrate their soul, where it will instill a sense of, an emotion or something that triggers something that almost like speaks to them directly.
Right, your name is inspired by the legendary boxer. Everyone has their inspirational person. Was he one of your inspirational person growing up?
I mean, my name, obviously, like many people out there, was primarily, of course, not named after the boxer, but the Prophet Mohammed, peace be upon him. But the common surname of Ali, like many Bangladeshis, meant that I had this name, Muhammad Ali, which really, of course, in a way, has, led me to kind of having a knowledge from a very young age, of who this man was, because wherever I'm faced in a situation, whether it's at school or someone telling your name to someone, Muhammad Ali, the name, always sparks lively conversation, even breaks the ice, because wherever I'm at an immigration desk, in some far off land somewhere, having that name, I've always felt like, in a way, it's almost like I've been a part of him, because my name is his name, and he's the most famous person in the entire world. I'm not exaggerating, I'm sure, by saying the most famous person in the entire globe. And to have his name, is as in a way, it's impacted upon me and my confidence and my strength, my courage. When I've lacked it, in some ways, having that name, I've almost felt like I've been in his shadow, if you like, in a way.
It's like his quotes inspire you as well as all generations. I know one of the inspirational quotes that you put on some of the walls of Birmingham. Can you name but a few the quotes?
Yeah, I mean, there are many quotes from Muhammad Ali that I felt is very simple. I wanted to remind people about the power of this man, and not just as a boxer, but also as a thinker, as a poet, as a philosopher, as someone who had words of wisdom. He was a wise man that people of all culture and background, faith, acknowledged. So whether his words of inspiration, and I'll name one, which is one that comes to mind was when he speaks about, he said, "I have made many mistakes, but if there's one person that benefits from me, then his life hasn't been in vain." I'm just kind of paraphrasing there. And one other quote that comes to mind is, "Service to others is the rent you pay for your room here on earth." So he was a deeply spiritual man, and it was something that should be an inspiration for new generations, even about just being creative. He speaks about, the one who has no imagination has no wings. He speaks about just being confident and saying, "I am who I don't have to be who you want me to be."
Yeah.
Someone who was unashamedly confident in who he was. Pretty much his attitude about just saying, "This is me, like it or lump it." And I think that's something that I feel I would say I admire and have even modeled in terms of my own approach as an artist, about saying, "This is me, like it or lump it," right? Being confident and being a little bit in your face about it as well. I think that's a necessary part of just kind of not having to feel, often I would say, like the immigrant mentality. Unfortunately, that's the way I describe it, which is the immigrant mentality, which is keep your head down and just
don't say anything.
Don't have to make too much noise. Just keep your head down and. But I always have kind of contested that, really, because why should it be that way? Why should we not be able to say, "This is me," and if you got a problem, then that's your problem. I am who I am, and I'm not going to change who I am for nobody. And that is, I say, that really the spirit of Muhammad Ali as a boxer, which inspired me personally.
Brilliant. Which school did you go to growing up?
I went to Montgomery Primary School, which is in Sparkbrook, and that was the area that I was born and raised in until I was about 10 years old. The whole family lived in Sparkbrook. We were there from the 1970s onwards, but we've since moved on from there. But Montgomery was the school I went to.
So secondary school. Which secondary school did you go to?
I eventually, alhamdulillah, I passed my 11 plus, and I went to grammar school, King Edward's Grammar School. It's called King Edward's the 6th, 5 Ways it's called, and it was a decent school, although there was some challenges there. There's no doubt. I was an artist, so.
What actually is the future for Muhammad Ali? How do you intend to conquer the world?
I don't know about conquering the world, but certainly, you know what? You're right. That should be our ambition. That should be our aspiration. That it is about making big, ambitious efforts to change and transform the world we live in. It should be part of our strategy, no doubt. And certainly, yes, my aim is to continue taking what I do far and wide, around the globe. I've been fortunate to have traveled to continents all over the world, and share my work and my experience with people, and hopefully inspire them to become future, creatives, leaders, and pioneers. So that's really my intention to continue. I haven't started yet. I'm not even. I've done nothing so far. I tell you, my intention is to take the arts and creativity and really place it at the forefront of change, of transformation, of dealing with complex social issues that we are struggling with, and as a way to deal with this kind of circle that we're in. That's where I see it. Often we kind of fall in this in this kind of circle. And we're not making that progress, or enough progress as we should be. So really, I'm here to just kind of kickstart some of this and see where we can go.
I know you did a piece for the Vatican. What other ventures have you got up your sleeve?
Yeah, I'm traveling quite a bit. I'm traveling to South Africa and Kuwait, and then back to America again. I've been building some projects in America actually, and I'm working on a big theatre project in America, and actually incorporates the story of Muhammad Ali, in fact, and it's something I'm kind of cooking up. I can't say too much yet, but I'm exploring something quite big in America.
Hopefully it would be an inspiration for our British Bangladeshis to also have that drive to conquer the world.
Sure. I mean, I suppose I'm just picking up on what we said about what you just mentioned about British Bangladeshi. I would say that up until now, I probably never really explored enough my identity as being Bangladeshi. And I say it's something I only recently started shouting about, because I recognize the need within this community, within my community, that there isn't enough. We don't see enough. We don't really know about, creatives and artists in this age that we live in this society, that are going out there. And if I am able to be, being recognized in mainstream, getting an award, for example, in, the different awards I've got, if that can help this community, then I see it as a responsibility that I need to shout about it. It's almost like you have to kind of fight in a way that the humility, of course, of downplaying what your achievements are, versus the responsibility of you having to put that out there, because otherwise you're denying another 100 Muhammad Alis, of actually achieving that, and actually believing that, we can engage. So I see, having children myself, I see it as a duty almost, that I have to go out and speak and share, and even do an interview with yourself that might be going out to the Bangladeshi community, because I feel passionate about our community, how I need to be a part of that transformation. How do we inspire our generation of, the new generations that to come?
Muhammad Ali, you received a MBE. What does that mean for you?
It's 3 letters, really, if I'm honest. But I suppose these 3 letters mean a lot to a lot of people. I'll be honest, initially I was I like to just crack on with the job that I need to get on with, which is just go out and do the work rather than talk about the work that I do. I like to just go out and try to make the difference. So initially, I suppose I didn't really know how to respond to being awarded an MBE, and I wasn't even sure if I was, deserved, or even whether it was for me or not. But then as I said, as part of my strategy or my, my aims to benefit our community, I understood the importance of acknowledging and accepting, at least, that this is something that might give further exposure to what I do, that might reach people that haven't heard about what I'm doing. Not to sing my own praise, to say, hey, look at what I'm doing, but to share with people, this is something that we should be doing more. I want to see more creatives. I want to see creative thinking develop in our community, so we can go out and change the world and challenge and be provocative and make change that won't come about from just us plodding along. So this MBE, it's a great thing in a way. If my father was alive, I'm sure he'd be, bragging to his mates about his son who's got an MBE. So in some ways, in that spirit of us as immigrant communities, achieving something in this foreign land for our parents, for that reason, I'm more than happy to accept it in their name, if you like, in their honor. That my father would never probably, I've dreamt that I would have had this, and he's not alive now to benefit from it. But as I said, in that spirit, I think it's something I was happy to do.
Thank you very much for joining us, Mohammed Ali.
It's always a pleasure to do things which are more specialist media with specific communities. So I'm always happy to take the time out and let this go out to audiences that I normally don't have access to. So I'm more than happy to do these interviews.
Hopefully that will resonate into all our viewers. And thank you very much for watching LB24 TV. We are signing off now. Thank you.